Telling me we're live.
What's up, everybody? It's Matt Johnson. We are back with another episode of Real Estate Uncensored. This is a place where you get actionable ideas, insight, inspiration to turn your real estate career into a life of freedom. We are talking about how to be a productivity beast today, how to get more done in the 24 hours that each of us has. So we're talking a little bit of time blocking, a little bit of prioritizing, a little bit of goal setting, because it all really kind of goes into one thing. So we got a bunch of stuff to get into, as we always do, and we are kind of off the chain. We have no guest today. We have Gene Volpe, who is essentially an unofficial co-host anyway, and so we have nobody else to rein us in. We have no reason to keep it tame, so we're gonna have a lot of fun today. Yeah, we got a really I think it'll be a really fun kind of in-depth episode. So we're gonna talk actually about Gene's schedule. This is gonna be fun. I can't wait to dive in.
Or the exact opposite. It might be terrible too.
Oh no, it's not.
No, it's not.
Good. We're gonna put that light right on that bald head and let it shine, my friend. But my mom is dead, so we're gonna keep this real. Inside joke.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a really harsh inside joke to start out with for anybody that knows you and your family. No, his mom is not dead. That was an allusion to Gene, and I don't know what's going on, but Gene dropped that in pre-show because I told him he looked like he was in his mom's basement because his lighting is not helping him today. But for those of you who are listening on iTunes, you don't care because you're not seeing what we're seeing. So anyway, first of all, the Junior Grandmaster himself, with a very much alive and doing well mother, Greg McDaniel, what's up?
Yes, me mama is very much alive and well. I just saw her, gave her a big hug. Me and my dad and my mom are heading up to our cabin in Carmel for the weekend, for the long holiday weekend. And we have, funny enough, so this cabin literally is in the middle of nowhere. It's surrounded on three sides by a river. You have to drive through the river. There's no bridge, through the river to get to the cabin. And we've been going up there since I was a young child, and lately we've been having a lot more wildlife, aka like rattlesnakes, and now we're getting more and more. There was a mountain lion that was seen around the cabin. So my parents are bringing up a gun just for protection. They're like, Greg, do you know how to work this thing? I'm like, oh my God, you guys are bringing up a gun, you don't know how to use it. This is not good. So I had to give my parents a crash course on how to operate a rifle. That was interesting. They're like, does the lever go up when it's ready to shoot or down when it's shooting? And where should I put the oil to clean it? I'm like, pray to Lord, baby Jesus, that there's nothing that goes wrong up there, because that is going to be a disaster. Absolute dumpster fire. But not like this show. Not like this show. We are putting the spotlight right on Gene's bald head, and we are going to just kind of tear him apart and put him back together. I think all of us in this business, we all need to work on time management. I literally just did a quick little video on the lead gen scripts and objections page about if you had to close a deal in 30 days, what would you do and where would you get it? And I had a coaching called Hank Avick the other day about this, yesterday about this, so it's very timely. And so Gene is very successful, and he is managing his success. And we're going to work on figuring out how we all should manage. So I'm going to turn this over to Matt, because Matt, he schedules in his sleep. I think he literally sends me scheduling emails in the middle of the night, send. Just so that I won't do it.
No,
we've all
here's
learned.
The kinds of emails I send to you, Greg, in my sleep. Greg,
God.
Dear Greg, and cue the Jimmy Fallon music. Dear Greg, please stop sending me these requests. This should go to Caitlin.
No, that was a very bold email. That was a very bold email. Dude, we already have this link. What are you doing?
That's how I manage my time, is I tell Greg, stop sending me things that I shouldn't have to do. All right, first of all, we need to actually officially welcome Gene in, because we've referenced you about 17 times, but not actually let you say anything. So, Gene, first of all, welcome.
I don't think anybody has to let me say anything. I do what I want. Okay. I'm a grown-ass man.
I'm
a grown-ass man, dog. But no, thanks for having me as usual. This is going to be fun, but maybe a little embarrassing. I don't know.
Nah. Embarrassing would be streaking down Main Street. That's embarrassing.
Well, listen, you said something in the front about, you were talking about how it's getting wild up in the mountains, and I'm like, what does that mean? You're up there with no pants on? What does that mean?
Dude, my dad has always told me, the Grandmaster has always said, that he always wants to retire on the sunny side of the retirement home, so he doesn't have to wear any clothes. Anybody also says, Greg, stop by the house anytime, but call first. I'm like,
hashtag goals. Hashtag goals.
Hashtag disgusting.
Wow. I did not want to know that about your parents, Greg.
Always call. Always call before you
That's
go
hilarious. Okay, duly noted. Anyone before they drop by Greg's parents' house, always call first. All right, so
Guns
yeah,
and
there's
no
there's
clothes.
actually there's a question here that
nudist
all right.
gun-toting
All
fools.
right. How about we start this episode off by managing our own time well and answering a question from the audience first. Then we'll talk about before we dispense advice on time management. So this question caught my eye. This is from Savannah. Said, hello everyone. I just got my real estate license a few months ago. I'm one of the youngest agents in my area, and I'm having trouble reaching qualified, reliable clients and gaining listings. I'm not sure if it's my age that detours clients or my overall approach. Does anybody have any advice? So Greg, let's assume this is someone I'm assuming, probably early 20s, maybe even really early 20s, 21, 22, fresh out of college or something like that, which is exactly when you jumped in. So you've been in this. I got in 24, 25, but I looked like a 12-year-old, so I feel like I can also speak from experience on this because it was when I was, the 5 o'clock shadow was not in when I was in real estate. Let's put it that way. That's how long ago it was. So Greg, what say you first of all?
Well, if anybody wants to see what I looked like when I got into real estate, just go to McDanielCallahan.com, and I'll be the 12-year-old on the right-hand side of the photo. No joke. I do make that photo. I joke about that photo all the time. But so there's a couple of things I would do. One, for Savannah, if it's a gal, I'm assuming.
Yes, Greg, it's a girl. I know.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got to fix my glasses.
Lots of gender neutral names out there, like Savannah.
I didn't know who she was identifying with. I'm trying to be very PC.
Hey, Greg, this is I want to introduce you to my brother Tina. This is my brother Tina.
Okay.
Sorry, Savannah.
So Savannah's like, fuck these guys. So what I would do is I would do this. I wouldn't focus on the listings right now at 21 years old. I would focus on deals. I would focus on working with buyers, getting your feet wet, and I would start getting some money coming into the pipeline. What I've been doing lately is I've been working on RedX, and I have their calling system. It's a phenomenal calling system. It's the Vortex. They have a triple line. A few of us are playing with it. They haven't released it 100% yet. But I went back and I downloaded all the MLS 10 years back in 2008 of all the expireds. And I've been doing the expired calls every day. And I'm getting 1 to 4 leads every single day of people that I can go into they'll put them into my database. There's an investor that wants to buy additional properties and do 1031 exchanges. He has property all over the state that he'll pick up. People that are looking to buy or sell in the next coming months. So I would probably go back and start hitting the expireds. Go back as far as you can. Go back 10, 12 years. It doesn't matter. This is just old. It's like wine. It gets better with age. These people, versus doing circle prospecting like I had been doing when I was just getting beat down every single time I would call. It was a barren wasteland with circle prospecting in my area. Switching over to old expireds has been tremendously effective. But also, Savannah, go out and get open houses. You're younger, so you're 21, 22, 23, whatever. Start doing live videos, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Start getting yourself exposed out to these people. Go to realtytimes.com. Start reading an article a day. Start pushing that content back out. Start going out and making inroads with local businesses. Go talk to Nick Sakis. Get his new app that he's been building out that I've been testing out. I've spent $300 in the last month, $300 or $400. Guess how many views I have on my 2 videos that Nick put out? Just guess.
900.
Thousands.
40,000.
Goodness.
And I'm saying for this low budget spend, you get a lot of visibility. And then we do, as Gene, we do lookalike audiences and then go back and ask for the business. But those are some of the things that I would start doing. But work your demographic. So don't go after the older folks that are going to look at you literally as one of their kids or grandkids. Start working with buyers. Go talk to renters and see if you can get them converted. Talk to your title company. They have apps that will show you if you're paying $1,000 or $2,000 in rent, what would that equate into a home purchase of value? So see if you can convert renters into buyers. So go do first-time home buyer seminars at different, I would do it at an apartment complex. Do it at your house probably, something like that, or not your house, your office. Yeah, come into my one-bedroom condo. 30 people. Yeah. That's not going to work. But there's just so many things that you could do if you want to start getting business. Focus on buyers. first.
Yeah,
They will turn into sellers.
That'd be my advice too. And going back to the RedX thing, because Wendy asked, like, Greg, since you're using RedX now, are you using it exclusively? Did you stop using Mojo? And it's not, I don't think it's that you've stopped. Where you're in the experimental phase with RedX and just using their stuff in addition to what you've always done with Mojo.
Right. I'm going to pause my Mojo just because I'm spending $150 right now and it's not working for me. I'm not quitting my account. I'm just going to pause my account and just give RedX a full run because they have so many verticals. They have a for rent by owner. That is a gold. I haven't even tapped into that yet. But calling the people who have properties that they're trying to rent, oh my God, talk about if they have properties, they might want to buy another one. Or maybe they talk about selling that one and taking the depreciation schedule, starting that over to roll all that equity maybe into a duplex or a triplex or a fourplex or something more that has more diversity and more income opportunities. I mean, there's just so many great conversations you can have with people. The worst thing you do, maybe you can go take this list of all these properties that are for rent, put it out there, and draw buyers in that think that they're going to be renters, but they could turn into buyers once they see what's out there on the market. I mean, you could take this content and do so much cool stuff with it. I mean, unbelievable. No, I'm going to shut up now.
Yeah, so now that Greg's given 17 different ideas, I'm going to give one piece of advice, which is don't do 17 things. Love of all that's good and holy. This is what we're going to talk about with Gene today, in terms of like being a productivity beast and stuff like that. It's not about like if you look at the best, especially the most profitable real estate teams, the most successful real estate teams out there, they're not doing 17 things. For the most part, they're really doing 3 things at most. And usually it started off with 1 to 2 things that they got good at, and then they added that 3rd thing later on. They might be experimenting with a couple of other things just to hedge their bets, but usually those things aren't bringing in any profit. They're just literally spending money on things just to hedge their bets and against changing market conditions and things like that. So my advice to someone that's brand new is just talk to a bunch of agents to get a sense of what it's like to do some of those things that Greg suggested. Ask some people what it's like to do open houses. Ask people who are successful at making cold calls to old expireds. Ask people who are successful at working buyers and renters, and just shadow some of those people. Get a feel for what you would like, and then just dive really deep into doing 2 things, and really focus on that.
But whatever you do, focus on your strengths. I mean, don't do something that you absolutely hate. I mean, Gene is a master of all things digital. I mean, Gene, light us up on the digital side. What would you recommend if someone came to you and asked that same question?
Well, first thing I would do is I'd recommend that they watch this video and go back, or listen to the audio and go back and really, I mean, you actually blew me away with the items that you laid out. I mean, you gave literally 30 things that seriously, no, I'm being honest, because I think if Savannah were to go back and look at those 30 things and prioritize them and say, here's the top 3 or 4 things that I think I could pull off and that I would enjoy and that I would be good at, and then target those 3 things and become the master of her domain in those 3 things, she would win. On the flip side, and actually this rolls into digital too, get your confidence right. As I was a young punk manager with a big tech company. I ended up becoming a manager, but I started as in what they called the NOC, the Network Operations Center, and people used to say I was cocky, and I am cocky. Like, it's really confidence bordering cockiness, because I think I'm good at what I do when I put my mind to it. And so when people talk to me, it didn't seem like I was 24. It seemed like I was a fairly seasoned vet, because I had been in the business a couple years, and I just dedicated myself to learn all about it. So when your confidence is straight and your gait and your walk are up, you're more likely to close a listing deal with somebody who thinks you're too young than if you have way too many questions, right? So think about that, because it could be this simple. Hey, Gene, you're only 22 years old. How are you going to sell my house? And I go, well, first of all, there's nobody you're going to see that's capitalized on the digital end of it like I do. My Instagram game is tight. My stories game is tight. My Facebook Live is tight. Here's what you think you're worried about me not knowing, how to handle a contract. But that's what my broker and my team members are for. I'm not worried about that at all, because as I'm learning, you're getting service from people that are way up the chain from me, so don't sweat it. I'm going to crush the video game and get people's eyeballs on your property. while we're getting all this stuff done. I got a whole team behind me that's going to help me. So the confidence level's got to be tight. If I lost a listing, if I put myself out there like that and I lost a listing for it, it wasn't going to happen anyway. It's not because I was 22, right?
Well, I mean, in all honesty, if I was just listening to you, your confidence came through just there. Do you mean your whole attitude changed when you started talking about that? She's like, look, pal, this is how it is. This is good, this is good, this is tight, this is amazing. By the way, you're worried about this. I got that covered, man. I got people who are super smart there and I handle this for you. Don't worry about that. My job is to get butts through that front door. That's all. I did the biggest listing I ever got from Circle Prospecting was a $3 million listing. And I was intimidated when I walked into this house because, these are very accomplished people. This guy had advised 2 sitting U.S. presidents on economics. I didn't know that until after we closed this house. That would have scared the crap out of me. But,
yeah, right.
Dude, I walked in there, and I was a little shaky when I got in there. But then I'm like, you know what? Fuck it, man. This is my listing. I found it. I fought for it. I followed up with it. I'm here. This is mine. And I walked in and I did exactly what you did, Gene. I just owned my airspace, and I just walked with confidence, talked with confidence, acted as if it already was done. They listed with us, and we sold with us, and they loved us.
Well, like you just said, if you hear it, you see it, you hear it, right? So think about the difference. Like if I came in and I was like, I'm only 22, I just need the chance. Just give me the chance versus, look, we're going to get your house sold, man. If you're worried about my age, just let's do this for 3 months. It's not setting you back that much, or maybe you go on a month to month, whatever it is. But come on, we're going to get this thing done. I'll get 15,000 eyeballs on that property for you. Don't sweat it. Don't worry about that. And age is just a number. If you think I can't do it,
Then maybe I shouldn't be sitting here. But I know I deserve to sit here because I can get it done. I love that confidence that comes through. And shit, man. I think we knocked that out of the park. Way to go, Gene.
All right, let's
He's just smiling.
dive into time management. So Gene, I'm curious, like what's been going on over the last couple of months, or maybe even just the last few weeks, that even kind of put this on your mind to begin with? Is there a specific incident where you're like, oh my God, it drove the point home where you're like, I've got to get a handle on my schedule?
Well, yeah, actually, they're really well. I think I've been, so from the time management perspective, you guys probably all know I'm that entrepreneur type, so I'm sort of ADHD, right?
That's a good thing.
Well, it is, except that when I realized that, I really am unproductive, or I could be more productive for 4 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think about what that looks like over a week. That's almost a half a week where I'm like, I get lost on Facebook. I'm in the car driving, and I didn't bring my book with me, so I'm not making phone calls. There's 1,000,006 excuses. But I think what recently turned it around for me was I got a random call from a client, and the client basically said to me, we've become friendly over the last couple months, so I could tell that she was on the edge of, I could potentially turn Gene off to me because I don't know him that well and I don't want to hurt his feelings, but I need to say this. And she said to me, I know what your aspirations are, and I think they're great as far as being like a speaker at a large level and just becoming like the go-to guy in the industry. And she said, but the way I just feel like you're spreading yourself too thin. And if you could get a handle on these 3 things and hire somebody X, Y, and Z, and what turned out to be a friendly conversation, one she was nervous about talking to me about, turned into a mentoring session. So I was like, well, listen, how do I X? What do you think? And this is from somebody very successful that I look up to. So it's like, it wasn't like it was my 12-year-old brother going, you're an idiot. You should go back to college. Like, this was somebody where, they're rocking a $100,000 car. And not that that's a big deal, but she's a successful woman. So I'm listening, and she's built a business on her own. And so I started just breaking stuff down, and I'm always trying to figure out if I did certain things with my calendar, or if I block, the things that go through my head are incredible. Like Sunday night, I sit down and I really plan the week out. And so my week looks like a minefield. I got meetings here. I got to drive here. There's the picking the kids up here in the morning, picking them up from school, driving them to dance class, going to the gym. It's all over the place. No different than anybody else's, but it's just all over the place. And with my ADHD, it takes me 20 minutes to get refocused after I'm unfocused. Do you know that feeling?
Mm-hmm. Very
much.
Yeah.
You got to know that, right? So I'm answering emails, I'm firing, and then bing, my phone goes off, and 4 hours later I find myself on Pinterest. Like, I don't know what just happened there, and what was I doing? You know what I mean? And what was I doing when I lost focus? I can't remember. Like, so, I mean, there's a million things going through my head, like I'm trying to break all my tasks into 4 or 5 manageable categories, and then blocking X amount of time off every day for that category. I mean, like, I'm all over the place, and I think I'm, you know, when you're so used to doing it one way, it's so hard to break that and go another way. Like, I'm trying to reset my schedule, so I want to wake up earlier than I usually do, so I get an hour and a half before the kids wake up and do what, you know, read a book and meditate. Like, I'll never do that shit, right? So just little things like that. So for me, I know that if I had an extra 20 hours a week, I could totally get 3 levels from where I'm at. And the funny part is I know that I have 20 extra hours a week. I just don't know how to capitalize on them.
Interesting.
Did any of that make sense?
Yeah, you're speaking about my life as well. I do the same thing. I mean, I this morning I decided that I was going to close down 3 of my Facebook tabs. I'm like, why do I need 4 or 5 Facebook tabs over? This is stupid. Why do I need all this other stuff over? This is stupid. And like you, I get distracted. Matt summarily slaps me, gets me back into productivity usually when we're doing podcast stuff. But I'm actually extremely curious to see what Matt's going to come up with when it comes to time management systems or whatever else that he's going to dispense knowledge on us. So Matt, stage front and center, please, sir.
I have to dispense knowledge. I don't know if it's an issue of dispensing anything. I mean, I think a lot of it comes down, Gene, we've talked about kind of to your service packages and things like that, because I think what's happening is the types of services that you offer, and of course agents get caught up in this too, because there's a million little details. And the contract for an agent, the contract to close part of it and all the details that go with all the paperwork side of real estate is the first thing that an agent should get off their plate. It's the same thing for an agency owner like you, like the delivery of the service. I don't know how much you're involved in the execution of it, but ideally you're not involved in the execution. You're involved in tweaking the systems and staying ahead of the curve and running experiments to improve the service, but you shouldn't actually be involved in the execution of the service. That would be my first question, is how much time, like when you find yourself in those blocks of time where you're doing like this detail work and you're going back and forth from one social media network to the other, how much of it is intentional experimentation and research to tweak and improve the systems versus how much is you jumping in and actually executing stuff for clients?
Yeah, so a couple of those things popped up, right? I mean, certainly the minutia, 80% of the minutia gets done by the team. Like, I have a team behind me that's their sole responsibility is to gather the data, the articles, make the postings, do the graphics, make all that stuff look good. So for the most part, I'd say 98% of that stuff is not me. But what I'm really good at is giving away stuff too. So I get a client that I have that I want to impress, or that calls me that I'm a friend with, and they go, "Could you do me a favor?" And I go, "Sure." And they go, "Could you put me together a 75-hour video that's movie-style quality, and you can come out and shoot this about my cat and their 3 feline friends?" And I'm like, "Sure, let's do it." And what I end up doing is what always bites me in the ass, which is funny, is that whenever I promise something that's out of sight, and I know this, I just can't get away from it. Whenever I promise something outside of scope of the service, the end result is always that person being upset with something. Whether it's the quality of the way it came out or the pace at which it took me when I was doing it for free and it's not included in the service anyway, but I find myself stressing over it. Like, so there's plenty of stuff that I'm looking at, but now I'm going to take into my second issue. There's plenty of stuff that I'm doing that should be handled by somebody else, right? Like, and I think we're all probably victim to that. You know, you just feel like you can do it better. And I know in my world, I'm always hung up on, like, if Greg was my guy, I'd say it'll take me double the time to teach Greg how to do it than it would be for me to just do it myself. So I'm just going to do it myself. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
So I get stuck in that hole. The biggest problem I think I have is that it's my name, and so I feel like nobody will give it the attention that I need to give it, and which is funny because have you guys ever read the E-Myth?
Yeah.
So that what she said to me on the call, she's like, I was going to send you this book, but I didn't want to insult you. It's called The E-Myth by Michael. And I'm like, no, I've read it. But it was years and years ago. And she went, well, maybe it's time to revisit it, like it's called, and do it again. Because it's, you working at 140%, only you have a ceiling. But 40 people working for you at 80% is not as good as what you would have done. But, man, you're killing the game. So,
You also can do more of what you need and should be doing, I'm guilty of that as well. I run around on a chicken with my head cut off. Somehow we get stuff done, but there's a lot of gaps in the usability of my schedule. Hank showed us. I was on a private call with him and a couple of other coaches yesterday. He did a screen share of his calendar, and he's very open about the fact that 2 years ago he had $1,000 to his name. Right?
Uh-huh.
He's very open with that, and now he's doing extremely well. But he went back, jumping by months. His calendar was picture perfect. It mirrored itself every single month, over year. So being intentional is something that I think that we might want to focus in on a little bit about, and be intentional where you're going to spend your time, not on spending your time on everything. Because right now it sounds like you're a jack of all trades.
Oh, me? That's my whole life. Jack of all trades, master of none. That's been my moniker forever. Like I'm the Swiss Army blade of whatever you need, right? But then when you need that knife that'll cut somebody's jugular, I'm not that guy, right?
Well, so, let me ask you, Gene, when you think about things that are done for the first time, do you believe they can be done perfectly?
The first time?
Mm-hmm.
No. In most cases, no.
Yeah, and that's part of – so my belief system is anything done for the first time will have mistakes, including anything that I do.
Oh.
Yeah, that's – you know what? That's actually a really good point. So why not offload it to somebody else?
Well, yes and no, right? Which is what I'm offloading to them is not them doing it for the first time necessarily. Maybe you'll have a rock star person who can do things for the first time themselves. Most likely not. Most likely we have to do things for the first time ourselves so that it gets as close to not sucking as possible.
Right.
But that belief system, like, hey, anything I do for the first time is going to have a mistake in it at some point, like one that I don't catch, no matter how hard I try. That keeps me from doing that, like that extra stuff, the stuff on the front end that isn't part of my service, or maybe it is, but they want like a sneak preview of a part of the service or something. Like, no, we don't do that. Like, if you're not ready to sign up, we don't do that. I used to do like free episodes or get your first episode for free. We stopped doing all that. Right. It just doesn't work because anything we do for the first time is going to have a mistake in it. Right. And so like doing that, like going through all that extra effort and all that stuff, when really what it is they don't believe the things they need to believe to just plunk down the money and hire Gene Volpe's team right now.
Right.
So that belief system protects me from a couple things. It also means that I don't sell a service based on us doing things right the first time, if that makes sense. We sell a system that's proven, and what I want out of my people and the systems that I create for the people that are on my team has that belief system built into it. So I'm not asking them to do things right the first time either. I ask them to do something that's proven, that's systematic, that's built, that has a checklist. Yeah, do that perfectly every time. But that's because we've already gone through the phase of the mistake-making part, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I don't the podcast production business isn't built on us being on the cutting edge of every podcast technology that ever has or ever will come out. It's based on proven systems that are a little bit behind maybe the curve technologically, but it's going to be perfect. And just repeatable, systematic execution. That's what allows me to push the work down on lesser people, like lesser skilled people, that they don't have to do things right the first time every time. Right. That also saves me from a lot of the fire putting out that a lot of other agencies, like owners, go through.
So, but being that you're the top sales guy, right? You're going to be the top sales guy for UX. Is that fair?
Mm-hmm.
How much do you feel? Because this is a big hang-up of mine too, right? How much of it do you feel is the people are buying the service because of you, not the service? Like in my business with marketing,
right?
You could hire anybody. I mean, I've heard people come to me all the time and say, my niece is 18 and in college, she can do it. Okay. Like, she's not going to do what we do because we know the game. We know, but she's also not going to cost what we cost. So I get that throw up, right? But I have this, and this is probably some of my, I want to say I'm not narcissistic, but this is going to sound narcissistic. I feel like when people buy my service, they want me. And if I'm not giving them me all the time, they don't want the service.
Yes.
Right?
That's a symptom of a bigger problem. So if this is why coaching practices and marketing agencies and consultancies, and it's why real estate agents get most of their business, because you're exactly right. People want the relationship. The problem is that's an indication that they see you delivering the same service as a bunch of other people, and so they're making their decision based on, okay, well, all these people do the same thing, so I'm going to work with the person that I like the best, that I get along with, that I know, like, and trust, and that's fine, but it doesn't build you a scalable business.
No, that's exactly where the conversation went. The conversation was like, look, how many clients can you handle where you're doing all the work? And I'm like, X. And they're like, all right, well, how are you gonna make $10 million a year with X clients? And I'm like, well, not. So it's funny. She said to me, she's like, I know, because I said the same thing to her, and she said, think about Brian Buffini and Tom Ferry. You don't get those guys. Like, they're the head of it, but they're not coaching agents, unless it's $1 million a year. And then go get 40 clients and manage those 40 clients for $1 million a year. You'll be fine, right? Mm-hmm. So it was. I'm with you on it 100%. I guess.
Well, and here's why. Like, so to go back to the symptom thing, mm-hmm. So here's why I think that's happening, which is they don't get to the level of deciding to work with Gene Volpe because they like Gene Volpe, except in the absence of something else. And that something else is they're not buying, there's no definable Gene Volpe package where you work with my team because we take you from point A to point B using very specific methodology, and here is the end result, and here is exactly the person that, if they plug into our service, goes from point A to point B, and here's what point A and point B look like.
Right.
It's that is what solves that problem. Right. So when you say, like, if you're an agent and you say, look, when you work with me, here is our listing Blitz program. And for the right client that wants to put their home on the market and sell in the shortest time possible for the absolute most money that you can possibly make on that home, this is the process of what we go through. This is the prehab process that we go through to get the home ready in condition. This is the listing process that we go through. These are the expectations that we have for ourselves and for our clients, because we're really, really good at taking this specific type of client and getting them this specific type of result. That completely, that puts you way above the level of just working with me because you like me. Yeah, and right. It puts in the level of you're buying an end result, and I become the only person that can deliver that result.
Right.
So it doesn't matter how much you like Jim and Terry and Bobby and your cousin who sells real estate. It doesn't matter. They don't have this thing, and what they do isn't what I do. But that you have to that's a level up of building that, and then building those beliefs in their mind that they go, holy fuck, dude. I mean, you may be an asshole, you may be a lot of things. I've had a great experience learning about this, but I don't know, if I'm that person who wants to get that result, I don't even know how I can afford you, but where do I sign the check?
Right.
Or they walk away and go, man, I don't know if I can afford him, because the end result sounds amazing. My only question is, I may not be able to afford someone that kick ass.
And it's funny that you say that, because now this won't apply to the real estate game a little bit, but one of the things that she said to me that really opened my mind was, she said, nobody will ever leave you because your service is too expensive.
Yeah.
Right? And I said, explain that a little bit. And she said, if you have the right service in place and your process is rock solid and they're making 3X on what they're paying you, they're not going to, why would they leave you? And to me, that was like, oh God. So if I provide, I mean, it's stupid, right? Because it should be so simple. It's one of those things where it's like, well, duh, if you're generating $10,000 and the service is $1,000, why would they ever go? But when you hear it said to you like that, it was like, okay, I have to remove myself. I become the salesman. I put process in place, and I got to do what I teach the agents to do, right? So I teach agents all the time. When you go into a listing presentation and somebody says, you give them your thing and you go, we're going to take the highest quality photos, HDR photos and videos and boom, 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 boom. And they go, well, what's the aperture going to be on the camera? I don't know. I'm the real estate agent, right?
Right.
This is what my team does. When Tommy comes in, Tommy's going to take the photos. I can ask him, but I don't care. I just care about the end result. Yeah. And then they're not upset when Gene doesn't show up with the camera because we told him Tommy was coming. Yeah. So I teach, and even with social media, like I'll tell them, they go, where's my listing? And I go, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google+, Pinterest, Tumblr. And they go, I can't remember all that. And I go, well, you don't have to, because you go like this. I don't know. My social media team does it. Gets all over the place. My guy Gene does it. Want me to call him and find out the exact sites? I mean, I can. No, we don't care. We just need to know. So I need to put myself in there as like, I'm the guy. These are the process. The service gets you 10x. All these things happen, but it's going to be Bobby, Jill, Tony, Savannah, Tina, Matt, and Greg. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of us as real estate agents, we're narcissists. Why do you think we all have our photos on our cards? I don't know very many other businesses that actually have us featured on the card.
That's funny, actually.
But think about it. And so
because we think our face is our brand.
It kind of is, actually.
Trap.
But I mean, we ran into an issue with this with our team a little while back. Is that one of the clients that hired us to sell their multi-million-dollar home? One of our members of our team was on vacation quite a bit during the listing period, and the clients got upset about it because they're like, "No, we hired him, not you guys. We want him." So in real estate, it does kind of come down to the personal relationships that I found, but I don't believe we set it up properly either. So like what you guys were talking about, I think that if it was set up like, hey, I'm going to be going on vacation because of X, Y, and Z. Here are my dates. My team, as you guys all know them, they'll be here. This is the process that's going to be handled. This is what you can expect. Set it up prior to. I think the clients will be okay with that. But that comes down to your calendar. Well, for
expectations,
real
right?
Well, let's talk about the calendar a little bit, right? So one of the things that I've noticed, because I've been working with my operations director about this, because we were leveraging him in the same way that I leveraged out, right? So we're moving him from lower value to higher value tasks. Like there was a time when my operations director sat next to me and I taught him all the mechanics and all the executables of what we actually did, right? So he learned how to do everything. But now I've gotten to the point where I want him focused on client communication, management, administration, managing the system, and most of the actual work is done by subcontractors underneath him that report to him. So I'm having to go through this process, the same process that I went through. Now I'm guiding him through that process. And one of the things that I've noticed that I've applied to myself is when we're shifting ourselves like out of lower value activities, like the things that we get lost in, the dabbling around on Facebook or whatever the case is, it's different for all of us. Whatever those lower value activities are, I think the best way to get ourselves to shift out of that is not to sit down with an empty block of time and try to keep ourselves from being on Facebook, but do something else that's productive. To me, it's squeezing out. And what I mean by that is figure out what the highest value activities are that we know we need to do and schedule those into our calendar and schedule everything else around it. And then the lower value stuff just kind of gets squeezed to the margins of the day. And yeah, if we get a cancellation or something like that, maybe we spend some time chilling out on Facebook. I mean, I had a Facebook or a podcast interview cancel on me this morning, and guess what? I took some time and I folded some laundry because it was nice to have a few minutes to not be super busy. But for the most part, like yesterday morning is a great example. 4 podcast interviews back to back, 7:30, 9, 10, 11, bam. My whole morning was booked out. So guess what? I didn't have time to be on Facebook. I didn't have time to be on email. Like I scheduled the time in my calendar that was the highest value use of my time. And I didn't have any other choice but to figure out how to get the other stuff done in the afternoon. And that didn't leave any margin for tinkering around on things that were low value activities. So there is that to be said for just figuring out how to schedule it into your calendar and squeeze out the stuff that's not important.
So I love what you did there. You probably saw me taking notes. Really, really like that. So here's what I'm thinking. It's interesting because Greg, we were talking about that book, the 80-20 rule of marketing, right? Before we fired this up, and I think the greatest reminder / lesson I got, it's a book by Perry Marshall, if you're listening. The greatest reminder / advice I got from that book when I read it was, I was actually on a plane. I think we're going to Florida, but it was, and Matt, you just kind of rattled it off, and he said, look at your calendar, and probably 80% of all the work you're doing are $10 an hour tasks.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you need to figure out is how to offload those $10 an hour tasks to somebody that's willing to do them for $12 an hour so you can focus on the $100 an hour tasks. And I thought, okay, that's good. But my next thought is, if I'm not going to do the $10 an hour task, I don't want to insult somebody else by giving them that shit, right? And then the next paragraph in the book was, if you're thinking that this is too good for too crappy for somebody else, know that somebody is there and they want to fold your laundry, and somebody is there and they want to do the tasks that you deem for yourself that you don't want to handle, whether you don't like it or it doesn't pay you enough. Then when you get that straight in your mind, you will start realizing that 80% of your time is spent on your $100 an hour tasks. You need to figure out how to offload those for $110 an hour and focus on $1,000 an hour tasks. And I was like, oh my God, like, it's not, again, so stupid. But when you break it out like that, so what you just told me was, so I told you in the beginning, right? I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items that I try to categorize all my tasks into. So, for example, when the week starts, one of the things I need to do is, for my health and wellness, I schedule out meditation, reading, gym time, right? And I drop that in the calendar. For current clients, I figure out the marketing and the communication I want to make to them, and then I splice all that stuff out and I lay it out. I have personal. So there's stuff that, for the previous week my wife was riding me about. This needs to be fixed. That has to do this, call this, get the girls to the doctors, whatever that is, that falls in there. So now what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to break those 6 categories out, drop the tasks into them, and then figure out what my highest value ones are, where I'm going to get the most value. And I don't mean currency, because some weeks the highest value is keeping my wife happy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, so that's important for the rest of my business. So I got to look at, for that following week, what it is, and then block those off. And like you said, work the other things in around that.
So what's going to stop you from doing that?
What? Oh, nothing will stop me from doing it. It's just not how I have been doing it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I guess here's the one thing that would stop me. Like right now, I have things on my calendar for next week, and the following 2 weeks. And so there's already stuff time blocked. Like my Monday is ruined. So I'm not going to get any high value tasks in on Monday next week, or not the holiday, the following Monday.
Mm-hmm.
So I already know that day's booked off. So so in my mind, this is all the stuff that holds me back. Do I say to my assistant, from here on out, everything we schedule is a week out? Like, how do I handle that? Like, in other words, Sunday night when I sit down, what's that?
Well, I said that's an interesting thing. Let me ask you, what's on the calendar for next Monday or the following Monday or whatever that dictates that there's no high value activities that are going to happen?
How about if I look at it while we're talking?
I think that would be great.
I am. So let's see what I'm doing next week. Is it next week? Yeah. Okay. So I got a photo shoot. It's a photo video shoot, not high value.
Okay.
I have a lunch with an old friend who happens to be a real estate agent. Probably not going to be a high value thing. I have a course creation call. I have time with my leads, my social media management team. That'll be high value.
Right.
But
yeah.
You know what I mean? And so when I'm thinking high value, I'm thinking, then I got, I got to take the girls to field hockey. I got to pick the girls up from the school.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll throw 2 things at you just to push back a little bit. So number one, I know where the course creation stuff fits into your business, and I'm working on some of the same stuff too. That it's not urgent, but it is super important, because that's the long-term strategy of maximizing the profit in your business.
Yep.
Right? Then you've got the photo shoot, which is the exact opposite, right? It's urgent. It's relatively unimportant. And this is one of the things that real estate agents, guys, if you're listening to this far in, know this. Most of the stuff that you hear other agents talk about being super important, just ask yourself one question. Is it income generation or is it income servicing? 99% of the time, most agents spend their time doing things that they think are super important, but they're actually just servicing clients they already have. Every inspection you ever show up to, every photo shoot you ever show up to, every in-person meeting you ever have, every call you ever take. And it's not that they're not important, but we just have to recognize we have to minimize as much as possible the amount of time we spend servicing the income we already have committed to us, and maximize as much as we can the stuff that brings in the next round of income. And that's an easy trap to fall into, is doing a lot of important things, but they're all income servicing, right?
But all right, but okay. So I hear that, right?
Now there's a qualifier. I'll give you the qualifier because you may answer the question. The only exception to that is when it's so high value that the income servicing itself can generate referrals, because they so over what David Macer would call super delighting our clients, that in itself, and the act of delivering service that is that outrageously over the top amazing and special, gives us the right to then ask for and get high quality referrals to the next round of clients, if that makes sense. That's the only time.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, there's so many moving parts and so many variables. You got to figure out what bucket to put that stuff into, right? Like I just wrote down urgent and non-important equals lower value, whereas non-urgent and important equals higher value. But one's an immediate reward. The other one is like you said, right? So the course for me is something that needs to be done, but it's also sixth on my list because it's not urgent.
Right.
Right. It's important, and it will be important. It's also important for the rest of the business. Everything we just talked about can be enhanced exponentially by the fact that there's a course behind it.
Yes, 100%.
My speaking, my clients. I mean, there's just a million things that can come from it.
Yeah.
But I find that gets the least amount of time on my schedule.
Yeah, well, I agree, but it's not because that's not important. It's because everything else expands to fill the time.
Yeah.
And you're not involved in 80% of the delivery of the service, but the 20% that you are in takes up the time. And then because you're a social media guy, the temptation is once you dive into social media, you flip that little switch, because we drift, right? We talked about definite purpose or whatever. Somebody asked me about that today. If we don't have a definite purpose for when we dive into social media, social media is designed to get us to drift. It's like scientifically, algorithmically perfected to get us to drift mentally. And
the part that sucks too is that it's so easy to justify because it's part of your business. Like, well, I have to be on Facebook for 4 hours.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's terrible. My wife will be like, "You're on Facebook for 4 hours, but I hear a cat on a vacuum." Like, why? What does that have to do with your business?
Well, that's just the videos Greg sends. It's very important to do that, right?
Dude, that's a very funny video, by the way, with the cat on the Roomba.
Hilarious.
It's hilarious.
Yeah. But no, I get it. But it's one of those, it's an awareness thing of noticing when you're on social media and you're not, if you notice that you're not expending calories, something is wrong, because we've switched into consuming mode rather than creating and interacting. It should, like, if we're on social media, if we're trying to be as productive as we can, there's really only two things we should be doing, which is creating content, engaging and interacting with people probably around the content we created. And then, Gene, in your case, there's another avenue or another task that you have, which is exploring, trying new things, testing new things, tracking the results to stay on top of new developments. That not every agent has to stay on top of things quite like you do, because hopefully they're paying someone like you who's doing this for them. So that's the third area that you have that the average agent doesn't have and shouldn't really be doing. Like, agents, it's one thing if it's your hobby. If you like taking an hour at night after business hours to read tech blogs and poke around on Facebook and see what's the new thing with Instagram and stuff like that, because that's a hobby, that's great. But that doesn't mean that just because you enjoy it, that that's the highest and best use of your time during business hours that pushes the business forward. The only thing that pushes the business forward is putting out great content and engaging and interacting with people around the content.
It's like mental jet skiing. I want to do it all day, every day, but it's not making me any money.
Yes. Mental jet skiing.
Mental jet skiing. So let me ask you then, because I know we're closing out on time here. So give me a couple. So first of all, when does Matt Johnson set his week up?
Well, here's the thing, is that I've got it so dialed in and my days are themed out that I don't have to sit down on Sunday night to plan my week out anymore.
Well, all right, then do this for me. Then give me an example of themed out. What does that mean? Monday is marketing day. Tuesday is I take a shower. What's that look like?
Yeah, well, Tuesday, I mean, just my weekly showers, exactly. But I spend 4 hours in the shower, so I get a week's worth of showers in one day.
Makes total sense.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
No, so I'll break it down like this, and I've got it. It's a little bit not quite as dialed in as this for me right now. But David Finkel breaks it down into push days and focus days. In other words, you've got days where you just push the business forward, just do the operation stuff, take care of clients, whatever. And then you've got your focus time that's projects and things like that that really move the needle, that generate sales, that bring in more clients and stuff like that. That's kind of roughly how I've got it broken down. I used to have it broken down into where entire days, like Tuesdays and Thursdays, I didn't take any calls. What I've done now is I'm experimenting with afternoons. So after about 2 o'clock, I cut off completely. No calls. So in the mornings, like on Monday mornings is my UX podcast time, right? It's when I plan out my social media, I write my promo emails, I make sure I've got that dialed in. Tuesday morning is operations and client work. Wednesday morning is my live podcasting. Thursday morning is all UX podcast recording. Friday morning is UX podcast recording and the Real Estate Uncensored show. After that, cut off. And then it's all personal outreach. So I do 2 hyper-personal, highly specific outreaches to people that can push the business forward every single day. It's tracked on a spreadsheet. I report it every day to my business coach. I also track the number of connect calls that I've had with people that day and the number of introductions, strategic introductions I've made behind the scenes. All that gets reported to my coach every day and tracked over time. So when I get to the afternoon, I know exactly what I'm doing. I don't have to plan it Sunday night. I know I have 2 outbound outreaches to make. I have an email to send to my coach to report what happened for the day. And then if I have time, and these are optional, I have the option of doing other high-value tasks, such as working on my course, if that makes sense. Or for a while there, it was like working on the book. But when I was working on the book, I set it 1,000 words a day. It might, and at one point that got to me where it was taking 45 minutes to an hour. So it wasn't like I needed to block off 4 hours of time for that.
Right.
But I set a goal. It was numeric. It was pass or fail, hit it or not hit it. And I knew when I got to the afternoon, I had this unscheduled block of time, but I knew exactly what it was filled with, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And of course now I'm yeah.
No, well, where did you do the bullshit stuff, like answering emails? I mean, I can't, if I walk away from my
honestly,
PC for 4 hours.
I didn't schedule it in that. I didn't schedule it in. And partly because I started getting my operations director more involved with the clients, which involved training and, leading and all that good stuff. But I got him more involved to the point where they started emailing him. So I'm seeing this shift now in the clients I've taken on in the last 3 or 4 months. The earlier I got my operations director involved in talking to them, the more comfortable. And now when there's fires that need to be put out, I don't hear about them until after they're fixed. Because they call James. They're like, hey, this doesn't look quite right. He's like, awesome, I'll get that taken care of. Like, I don't even hear about it until after it's fixed, if there's stuff that goes wrong at all. And the relationship that my clients are starting to have is with our service, not with me.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So hopefully that helps. Now,
there was some great stuff out of here.
There's a great comment here from Melanie. Pick one day a week that's dedicated to, certain things. That's another great way to do it, right? I'm going to spend 4 days a week in the business, servicing clients, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to spend 1 day a week on marketing. That's great. If you really stick to it, you can make Fridays your day to do lead generation stuff. But man, that's a very easy thing to let fall off because Friday afternoons roll around. And Greg, you and I know this. We don't work much after our last call when you and I chat at 1 o'clock on Fridays. After that, both of us are pretty much out. Because if you're an entrepreneur and you're doing high level stuff all week, Friday afternoon rolls around and you're pooped. So that's my one caution about taking 1 day a week to devote to marketing and business development, stuff like that is you just have to be, the only way that works is if you tie a number to it, you know exactly what you're doing when you show up to that day, you know exactly what your process is and how long it takes you, and you just crank it out. Otherwise that 1 day a week thing of just I'm going to focus 1 day a week on generating business and doing something that pushes the business forward, it doesn't work, and it's very easy to let if that ends up being Friday, which for a lot of people that try that's what happens. I'll make Friday my marketing day.
No.
You do a little bit of client work in the mornings
tired.
on Fridays. Yeah, I mean, Greg,
No.
it's too easy to let go.
I mean, what I'm starting to do now on the Friday afternoons is I meet up with my co-host for the radio show, Tiffany, and we do show prep for the Sunday radio show. That's lunch and beers, basically what that is, and getting some face-to-face time together, doing some work. But it's a very easy and laid-back environment. And so it's not a high intensity. I'll take high intensity Monday through Thursday and just crush it. But like you're saying, Matt, you need that time to just kind of hit the like decompression button and be like, kind of like unwind. Like any of you guys looking at me right now, the reason I'm so casual today is because after this, I'm hitting the road and I'm heading over to the city for a Giants game this evening.
Nice.
You know, so I mean, it's just those types of things, and don't beat yourself up about taking a couple of hours here or half a day there, off. You have to take the time off. You have to schedule that into your day, into your calendar. Otherwise, you will. I guarantee you will burn out. It's not like it's an 80% chance. No, it's a 100% chance you will burn out. So just learn to be okay with taking some time, doing what you like to do. The bullshit times, as Gene would say. If it's getting lost on Pinterest and, which, by the way, I totally do that too, Gene. But it's usually on my dream board or something on that I get lost on. But you need that stuff to be there. But be very, very, be very diligent about your calendar. I live and die by my calendar. If it's not on my calendar, it does not exist.
No, I'm good at that. But I'm really good at that. I can't tell you how many arguments I've had with my wife because you're supposed to do X. No, I'm not. It's not on my calendar. You put it there. Sorry.
Yeah, it's not there. It does not exist in my world unless it's on there.
Yeah, that's a tough thing. This is a whole other conversation. But yeah, it can be tough, and it takes a lot of negotiation to help somebody who is not an entrepreneur, especially when it's a husband and wife relationship with kids.
Yeah.
To get the wife to understand that, hey, it's in our best interest. Like, this cannot be a relationship thing of where you need me to do it because this is how you feel loved. Like, between the hours of 8 and 5 o'clock, the way that I run my business is not about our relationship. I have to move up my level of productivity and my higher value level of activities. And this can't be about, I need to take off at noon and do the dishes because that's how you feel loved. Like, no. Like, I have to, like, between the hours of 8 and 5, I run the business or something like that.
There are certain things, like for me, when she's at the office, I got to get the kids at 2. You know what I mean? Like, that's not negotiable. There's certain things where I got to.
Just send an Uber. Send an Uber.
I'll say, yeah, not an Uber, but you know what I'm saying? Like, but even Adam Carolla has a nanny, like my mentor, Frank at Viral Marketing, has a full-time nanny. So guess what? It's not for his wife. The wife doesn't need the nanny necessarily, although it helps. It helps him not have to get home from, 8 hours of running a business and get handed a kid because he's walking into a wife who's spent all day alone at home with kids. So there's things that you can do about it. Money solves an abundance of problems when it comes to kids.
This is true.
But it cannot be one of those things where you're the only person who can do it because that's how she feels like you're being a good husband. Like, no, I will be an awesome husband, but that doesn't mean I need to be an awesome husband at 2 o'clock in the afternoon in the middle of, a productive workday.
Why can't I be an awesome husband in a Maserati?
You can.
Because you won't get the Maserati. If you're taking your kids to school at 2 o'clock 2 days a week, you're not going to get the Maserati.
That's what I'm saying about. No. See,
yeah,
that's
exactly.
For me. That's why she says to me, "It's 8 o'clock. Why are you still working?" Well, because today I was gone for 3 hours driving the kids around, and I don't want that to come off the wrong way. Like, it sounds like I'm saying like my wife is a. That's not what I mean. I mean, we agreed to this. No. I'm flexible, right? That's how it works. So, but anyway, I think we've gone over.
We have.
I think maybe a little bit, yeah.
We have by 1 minute, but all right. Well, let's button this up. Gene, how can they get a hold of you? You better do your freaking little jingle. Don't bitch out on the jingle.
I'm not going to do the jingle. I just want you to know that if you ever need any help or just some friendship, reach out to me at genevolpe.com.
That's it. You're canceled from the show.
If you'd like to help Gene waste time.
Let's surf Facebook together.
Exactly. That's what Greg and I do on Friday nights.
Yeah. So a nice Merlot, a little talk on Facebook. Hey.
Exactly. I will give you a plug, Gene. So if you're an agent or a small business owner listening, and you want to get more visible for the specific purpose of making every single conversation that you have easier in your business, you should call Gene Volpe.
Are you okay if I use that clip in my marketing?
Yes. Go ahead.
That was brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah. You better get my song on there.
You got to do me a song. Let's go.
Shut up. I just did the jingle.
Great.
Guys,
How do people connect with you?
bookmcdaniel.com. Go to bookmcdaniel.com. If you guys are if you've been hearing about this whole company called the EXP and you're kind of wondering what it's all about and why did I and Matt switch over to it? Why are tens of thousands of agents switching over to it? Why is it the fastest growing company in the business right now? Dude, go to bookmcdaniel.com and let's find out together. Let's book 30 minutes. Let's see if I can give you the laydown on how it's going to roll out, and you can make a decision if it's the right move for you. So take a listen. Take a listen of that. Go ahead and go to that, and then let's have an opportunity to chat as Gene and Matt both laugh at me on their screens. Matt, and then you need a color, my friend.
Well, I mean, come on. In honor of Gene Volpe, how can we not go with a bright orange bow tie?
I love it. All right, guys, thank you for watching. Hopefully this was helpful. Share this. Go to iTunes, give us a 5-star review if you like what we're putting out there. And if you have any other questions, just go ahead and call Matt, 402-336-1122, and you can get him on his cell phone. Until next time, guys, we love you. Matt loves you. Gene loves you. I love you. We'll see you on the next show. Peace out, ninjas. We're gone.